So, let's talk about something we've all been through. It's this weird paradox. Why is it that the one tool we trust the most to solve our problems, our own conscious mind, is so often the very thing that keeps us trapped? In this explainer, we're going to dig into a model of the mind that pretty much flips everything you thought you knew about thinking completely on its head.
You absolutely know this feeling, right? You hit a wall. You've looked at a problem from every single angle. You've applied all the logic you can muster. You've tried to force your way through with willpower, and still, nothing. You're just stuck. Therapists actually have a name for this. It's called a therapeutic impasse. And it's that incredibly frustrating experience of knowing you have a problem, but being totally unable to think your way out of it.
All right, let's dive right in with the first big idea here, and it's a game changer. Drawing from the incredible work of psychotherapist Milton Erickson and Ernest-Rossi, the reason you're stuck probably isn't the problem itself. The real issue is the tool you're using to try and solve it. It's your conscious mind. Okay, so think of your conscious mind like an old computer with a single core processor. It's what's called a serial processor. That means it can really only focus on one thing at a time, in a straight, logical, step-by-step line. Now, that's great for things like balancing your checkbook or following a recipe, but it's just not built to handle the messy, complex, and often illogical nature of our biggest human problems.
And here's the contrast that changes absolutely everything. While your conscious mind is just chugging along on its one little track, you've got this other incredible system running in the background, your unconscious mind. This thing is a massive parallel processor. It's a legit supercomputer that can tap into and process your entire life's worth of memories, skills, and learnings all at the same time. See the difference? The conscious mind is a bottleneck. The unconscious is a wide-open superhighway.
So what happens over time is that this limited one-track processor starts to build a very rigid reality for you. It creates a whole framework of what's possible and what's not, but it's based only on what it already knows. Erickson had a great name for this. He called it the prison of learned limitations. It's the very structure that keeps our problems locked in place and literally blocks us from seeing all the new solutions that are waiting just outside the prison walls.
And this brings us to a huge paradigm shift. For, over 100 years, psychology has kind of painted the unconscious as this dark, scary basement in our minds. But what if that's all wrong? What if it's not the villain of your story? What if it's the hero you never even knew you had?
Just think about the old view versus the new one. The classic Freudian model saw the unconscious as this dark cellar, filled with repressed trauma and all our worst impulses, basically the source of all our problems. But Erickson, he flipped that idea completely. He saw it as a vast, benevolent reservoir, a wellspring of creativity, of wisdom, and of practical solutions, all built from every single thing you've ever experienced.
And when you look at these models side by side, the difference is just crystal clear. The Freudian goal is all about digging up and analyzing the past. The Jungian goal is about integrating some deeper collective wisdom, but the Erickson-Rossi goal, it's way more practical. It's about helping the unconscious do what it does best, generate its own solutions for your future. And that leads to this amazing insight. Maybe we don't need to analyze the past nearly as much as we need to access the future.
Okay, so if we have this incredible supercomputer inside us packed with solutions, why can't we just, access it? How do we actually talk to it? How do we get past the conscious mind's defenses? Well, meet the bouncer at the door of your mind, the critical filter. This is the part of your conscious mind that basically acts as a gatekeeper, and it has one job and one job only. Check every piece of incoming information against your existing beliefs, that prison of limitations we talked about. If a new idea doesn't match what you already believe is true, it gets tossed out. This is exactly why just telling yourself, "I'm going to be more confident," almost never works. The bouncer just looks at the list and says, "Nope, not on here. You can't come in." And this, right here, is where Erickson's genius really shines. As he put it, the goal isn't to pick a fight with the bouncer. The goal is to create a special state of mind, a kind of trance where the bouncer just temporarily steps aside. A state where, in his words, the limitations of one's usual frame of reference are relaxed so that you can finally be open to brand new ideas and patterns. So how do you actually get past the bouncer? Well, Erickson came up with all these elegant strategies, what he called architectures of bypass. You can overload the conscious mind with confusing language until it just gives up trying to follow. You can misdirect it with a really compelling story so the deeper message just slips right in unnoticed.
You can disrupt an automatic pattern like a handshake to create a moment of pure surprise, or, and this is the most clever one, you can actually use the person's own resistance as the very tool for change.
This idea of utilization is so cool in practice. For instance, Erickson once treated a woman who had chronic insomnia. Now, instead of telling her to try and sleep, which her critical filter would have immediately rejected, he ordered her to stay awake all night and wax her floors. He was utilizing her symptom of wakefulness. Of course, the task was so mind-numbingly boring that her unconscious mind pretty quickly decided that her warm, comfortable bed was a much better option, and boom, she fell right asleep.
Now, I know this all might sound like clever psychological artistry, maybe even magic tricks, but here's the amazing part. Erickson's collaborator, a guy named Erickson-Rossi, came along and provided the hard science that explains why this stuff actually works. And we're talking about literally rewriting the code in your brain at a biological level. Rossi was a pioneer in a field called psychosocial genomics. Okay, that's a mouthful, I know, but here's what it means in plain English. It's the study of how our subjective experiences, our thoughts, our feelings, even hearing a therapeutic story, can send signals all the way down to our DNA, flipping certain genes on or off. This mind-to-molecule communication means that a powerful psychological experience can literally trigger the growth of new connections in your brain, physically changing its structure. It's incredible. And modern approaches like coherence therapy have actually structured this process. First, you discover the deep, unconscious emotional belief that's really driving the problem. Then, you integrate it. You start to see and understand how it actually shows up in your life. And finally, and this is the absolute key, you create what's called a juxtaposition experience. You bring a powerful, contradictory feeling or memory to mind at the exact same time as that old belief. So what does that juxtaposition do? It triggers a completely natural process in the brain called memory reconsolidation. You can think of it like your brain's own built-in save-as function. When an old emotional memory gets activated, there's this short window of time where it becomes unstable, malleable. If new, contradictory information comes in during that window, the brain can literally unlock the old memory, rewrite it, and then resave it without the original emotional baggage. The old programming isn't just suppressed, it's permanently erased. So here's the crucial point. The big takeaway from all of this. The goal of this whole process isn't to defeat your conscious mind or prove that it's wrong. Not at all. The real goal is to change its job description. We want to shift it from being this rigid, anxious controller to being a skilled, curious collaborator, a partner that works with the incredible resources of the unconscious mind, instead of constantly fighting against them. And that leaves us with one final, really powerful question to chew on. We put so much pressure on ourselves, right? We have to figure it out, we have to solve the problem. But what if that's not our job at all? What if our true role is simply to get out of our own way, bypass the limitations we've learned, and just create the right conditions for our mind's hidden supercomputer to do what it does best, generate the perfect solution all on its own?